Hi, I'm Tom with a list of interesting things. Today on the list of interesting political things is the second impeachment of President Donald Trump. Before we get in, I hope you'll remember to subscribe to stay up to date on all the most interesting things. Following his involvement in the incitement of the Capitol coup on the 6th of January last week, Donald Trump has officially become the first president and only the second person in U.S. history to be impeached twice. Let's explore what that means, what the steps going forward are, and how this might end. Let's dive right in. On screen is the text of the article of impeachment. Only one this time, clear and simple. Strap in because I'm going to read it in its entirety. This resolution impeaches President Donald John Trump for high crimes and misdemeanors. Specifically, the resolution sets forth an article of impeachment stating that President Trump incited an insurrection against the government of the United States. The article states that prior to the joint session of Congress held on January 6, 2021, to count the votes of the Electoral College, President Trump repeatedly issued false statements asserting that the presidential election results were fraudulent and should not be accepted by the American people or certified by state or federal officials. Shortly before the joint session commenced, President Trump reiterated false claims to a crowd near the White House and willfully made statements to the crowd that encouraged and foreseeably resulted in lawless action at the Capitol. Members of the crowd, incited by President Trump, unlawfully breached and vandalized the Capitol and engaged in other violent, destructive, and seditious acts, including the killing of a law enforcement officer. President Trump's conduct on January 6, 2021, followed his prior efforts to subvert and obstruct the certification of the presidential election, which included a threatening phone call to the Secretary of State of Georgia on January 2, 2021. President Trump gravely endangered the security of the United States and its institutions, threatened the integrity of the democratic system, interfered with the peaceful transition of power, and imperiled a co-equal branch of government, and by such conduct, President Trump warrants impeachment and trial, removal from office, and disqualification to hold U.S. office. Donald Trump has come under heavy fire from both sides over this. Many of his Republican colleagues, normally very loyal, have jumped ship and condemned his actions and his rhetoric as dangerous, disloyal, and in some cases seditious. In the House of Representatives, the impeachment resolution passed by a margin of 232 to 197, with 10 Republican representatives joining the majority position. These included Liz Cheney, daughter of Dick Cheney, and one of my local congresspeople, John Katko, among some others. I listened through the majority of the proceedings, and the way I saw it, there were 4 opinions in the room today. Number 1, nothing bad happened at the Capitol, and President Trump is innocent. This is an interesting one. This is exemplified by individuals like Jim Jordan, who remained loyal to the president through thick and thin. He implied a lean into the popular "it was Antifa" conspiracy theory, which suggests that it was Antifa that infiltrated Donald Trump's crowd at the rally and were the ones to incite violence. The people who supported this position also in many cases defended their decision, to attempt to block the Electoral College votes for Joe Biden. This is the opinion held by a loud minority of House Republicans absolutely riddled with conspiracy theories and whataboutery. Number 2, something bad happened at the Capitol, but the president is innocent. This was the most common Republican opinion. Many House Republicans condemned the terrorists that attacked the Capitol, stating that they needed to be brought to justice, but asserted that the president had no responsibility for the riots. These Republicans urged slowness, patience, due process, and unity. Noble goals, I would say, in more ordinary times. This was occasionally undercut, as in the case of Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, with rhetoric about how the president may not have acted properly, but that impeachment will only divide the country more. This preaching of unity was a common theme among the non-dissenting Republicans. Number 3, something bad happened, and the president is responsible. This was the majority Democratic opinion, and the one held by the dissenting House Republicans. This is the bulk pushing to impeach and hoping to convict. This is displayed in House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's own dramatic rhetoric. Quote, "A constitutional remedy that will ensure the Republic will be safe from this man who is so resolutely determined to tear down the things that we hold dear and that hold us together." Number 4, finally, some, and I might say many, House Democrats took the more extreme position. Something bad happened, The president is responsible, and so are the elected officials and particularly the members of Congress who perpetrated his lies. This is well exemplified by Jerry Nadler, combating conspiracy theories and laying blame not only at the feet of President Trump, but also at the feet of Republican House members who leaned into the president's conspiracy theories for as long as they did. Quote, "Madam Speaker, I have faith in the resiliency of our government. We will bring the rioters to justice. Their accomplices in this House will be held responsible." This was not majority rhetoric, but certainly common rhetoric among the Democrats pushing for impeachment, stating that it was not just the fault of the president that the rioters thought the things that they did, but also the fault of the members of Congress and indeed some state and local politicians and leaders who allowed the problem to fester like it did. I'll leave deciding which of those arguments has the most merit as an exercise to the viewer. So that's what happened today. What happens going forward? What happens next? Well, now it moves to the Senate, where they hold a full trial just like what happened last year. But it looks like it's going to progress a little differently. First, let's consider the timeline. Today is the 13th of January. The president leaves office at noon on the 20th, but the story certainly doesn't end there. The Senate impeachment trial will begin on the 19th. Now, the fact that the president isn't in office anymore means that the Senate conviction can't remove him, but it doesn't mean that the trial stops, and it doesn't mean that the president can't be convicted. That would be insane from a civics perspective. It would be crazy. That would mean that the president would have effective free reign, effective immunity over any corrupt act they would like to take at the end of their term. The end of a term isn't a get-out-of-impeachment free card. You are still culpable for any impeachments levied against you by Congress after you leave office. If after the 20th the president is found guilty, he can and likely would still be punished. What exactly those punishments could be on a former president are a little nebulous, but I know one of the principal punishments being pushed for is a bar from ever being allowed to hold public office again, as we heard in the article of impeachment just a moment ago. The general temperature as well, the general feeling of the Senate is a little different than last time too. Not only are there more Democrats in the Senate than there were last time, there are also far fewer Trump loyalists. Of course, you have your Ted Cruzes, who are in support of President Trump through thick and thin and are fully on board the conspiracy theory train for some reason. But you also have dissenting senators who have intimated that they would be willing to vote in favor of conviction if the evidence presented during the impeachment proceedings in the Senate was strong enough. Those dissenting senators include Mitt Romney of Utah, who was the only one to dissent last time, as well as Lisa Murkowski, who's up here somewhere. Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. This is an interesting quote. "I want him to resign. I want him out. He has caused enough damage." This is a Republican senator from Alaska. Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse. Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey. And, perhaps most surprisingly, Senate Majority Leader and soon-to-be Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. This comes in a little bit of shall we say, a he said, she said sort of way. We aren't certain that McConnell will convict. What we do know is that he hasn't said that he won't, like he did last time. Interesting, but certainly not conclusive. And it's worth remembering that that's a possible 5 dissenting senators. In order for a conviction to go through, a 2/3 supermajority is required, so a total of 17 Republican senators at least would need to vote in favor of conviction. Again, those proceedings begin on the 19th, so stay tuned for updates on this day 1 week after the Capitol coup. Until next time, be like the second Trump impeachment. Be a little unexpected, and be uncompromising in the face of terrible things. And above all, be interesting. See you next time.